You make thousands of decisions every single day. What to watch, what to buy, who to trust, what to believe. And, most of us just assume these choices are completely our own. But what if they aren't? What if your thoughts, your emotions, and your decisions are being quietly influenced without you even realizing it? What if modern psychology isn't just used to understand human behavior anymore, but to literally control it? Well, in today's Explainer, we're going to dive deep into this dark reality. Let's start with a few simple questions that might just change how you see your own mind.
So, have you ever opened your phone for what was supposed to be just 2 minutes, only to realize an entire hour just disappeared? Think about that for a second. You intended to do one quick thing. You were totally in control. And then a phantom hour vanished from your life, leaving you staring at a screen, wondering where the time went.
Or how about this one? Have you ever bought something impulsively just because it said limited stock or offer ending tonight? Did you actually need that item? Or did a ticking clock and some bright red text suddenly override your rational brain, making you feel this artificial sense of panic? Honestly, how autonomous are your daily choices, really? Here's a big one. Have you ever trusted someone simply because they sounded confident? Maybe they didn't have the facts. Actually, maybe their logic was completely flawed, but they spoke with such absolute certainty that your brain just bypassed its own defense mechanisms and simply believed them. Well, if your answer to any of these is yes, then you've already experienced psychological manipulation in action. Part 1. The flaw in the code, exploiting human instincts. The truth is, the human brain is surprisingly easy to manipulate. And it's not because we're weak, it's because our brains were perfectly designed for survival in the ancient world. We rely heavily on these mental shortcuts called cognitive biases to make incredibly fast decisions. I mean, think about it. Thousands of years ago, if you heard a twig snap in the dark woods, you didn't stop to deeply analyze the acoustic properties of the sound, right? You just ran. You made a lightning-fast decision. But today, those exact same mental shortcuts have become vulnerabilities. They're being constantly, relentlessly hacked. So there's this severe mismatch happening. We are essentially walking around with ancient hardware in a hyper-digital world. What used to keep us safe from predators is now precisely what corporations and platforms exploit to trigger constant impulsive buying and endless scrolling. Your survival instincts have quite literally been monetized. One of the most powerful examples of this exploitation is social proof. Humans naturally trust what the herd trusts. If thousands of people like a post, buy a product, or repeat an opinion, your brain automatically assumes it just must be valuable or correct. And even if you think, oh, I'm totally independent, I don't care about follower counts or trending labels, well, your brain is subconsciously reacting to them anyway. It's a deeply ingrained biological imperative to stay with the tribe. Let's look at a really classic real-world example. Imagine you're walking down the street and you see two restaurants side by side. One is completely empty. The other has a massive line stretching all the way around the block. Now, most people instantly assume the crowded restaurant is vastly superior, right? And that's without tasting a single bite of food or seeing any actual evidence. That right there is social proof controlling your perception in real time. Then we have urgency, which creates what we call FOMO, or the fear of missing out. When you see phrases like only two left or offer ends tonight, it triggers an emotional reaction that literally bypasses rational thought. Time pressure weakens your logical thinking, so instead of asking, wait, do I actually need this? Your brain just panics. It focuses entirely on avoiding a potential loss. This artificially induced fear is exactly what makes online shopping so dangerously addictive.
Part 2. The machine. Anatomy of the algorithm.
We are now living inside the biggest psychological manipulation system ever created. Most people kind of blindly believe social media apps just exist to show us entertaining content. But that is a total illusion. In reality, these platforms are powered by massive recommendation algorithms that study your behavior in terrifying detail. They track every single pause in your scrolling, every click, every swipe, every like. Every single second of your watch time is harvested, tracked, and analyzed. The algorithm is slowly, methodically, learning exactly what captures your attention emotionally. Because here is the brutal truth. The algorithm does not care what is healthy. It doesn't care what's truthful, and it certainly doesn't care what is meaningful. Its primary, unyielding goal is engagement. It actively prioritizes outrage, anger, shock, and fear simply because those intense human emotions keep people scrolling longer. And because the algorithm feeds you whatever keeps you emotionally engaged, it massively amplifies what's known as confirmation bias. So imagine you click on just one conspiracy video, maybe just out of mild curiosity, while the algorithm instantly notes your high watch time. Then it begins feeding you similar but slightly more extreme videos. Before you know it, your entire custom feed is filled with this content, creating a closed loop.
Gradually, your actual perception of reality shifts because the system is continuously reinforcing just one type of information and totally ignoring all opposing views. You're trapped in an emotional loop without even realizing the door was locked behind you.
Part 3. The mutation. Everyday tricks and brain rewiring. Now, this manipulation has mutated way beyond just the digital world. This architecture is everywhere. Look at how we are surrounded by carefully designed psychological traps every single day. Luxury brands artificially restrict their supply to trigger scarcity, making you associate exclusivity with value. And why do you think the candy is always right at the checkout line? Because after making dozens of choices in the store aisles, decision fatigue sets in, making your tired brain highly impulsive. Why are your notification badges almost always red? Well, color psychology dictates that bright red triggers biological urgency. It demands immediate attention. Even silence is used as a tool. Really skilled negotiators will stay completely quiet after asking a hard question because humans naturally hate the discomfort of silence. We'll start talking just to relieve the tension, often revealing things we never, ever meant to say. And then there's authority bias. We are absolutely wired to follow the leader. We instantly trust people who appear powerful or successful. You put a person in a white lab coat and they instantly seem more believable, even if they aren't a medical expert at all. Today, influencers, celebrities, and public figures exploit this flawlessly. Mere confidence can completely dictate how we perceive the truth. If they just say it with enough conviction, your brain automatically assumes they must be the authority. But honestly, here is the most unsettling part of all this. It's not just that we're being manipulated in the moment. Over time, our brains are actively adapting to these systems, and the psychological toll is severe. We're seeing shrinking attention spans, a drastically reduced patience for normal offline life, a profound discomfort with silence. Our brains have been trained to expect a rapid dopamine reward every few seconds, which is leading to a massive loss of deep analytical thinking. People are genuinely feeling anxious when they are simply separated from their phones. We are literally rewiring our own consciousness.
And standing right there on the horizon is artificial intelligence. AI can already generate totally realistic faces, voices, and conversations. Deepfakes are completely blurring the line between reality and fiction. Soon, algorithms won't just push existing content. They're going to use predictive models to generate completely unique versions of the internet, custom-tailored in real time to manipulate your specific individual's psychological profile. We are entering the era of hyper-personalized manipulation.
Part 4. The resistance. Reclaiming your attention.
So the big question is, how do you survive this? How do you step out of the matrix? Well, there are tactical defense protocols you can deploy starting today. First, awareness. The very moment you recognize manipulation, it loses its power. Start questioning your emotional reactions online. Ask yourself, wait, why is this making me angry? Second, slow down. Manipulation completely relies on speed. Taking just a few minutes to pause prevents those impulsive choices. Third, control your attention. Limit the endless scrolling and turn off those non-essential red notifications. And fourth, expose yourself to differences. Break your own echo chambers. True independent thinking requires intentionally seeking out opinions you disagree with. Taking back control of your mind requires highly intentional effort.
Always remember this crucial truth. Attention is one of the most valuable resources in the modern world. Every corporation, every advertiser, every algorithm is currently fighting a multi-billion-dollar war, and the battlefield is your focus. The people who control attention influence behavior, and the people who influence behavior shape society. The greatest threat isn't just that technology is getting smarter. It's that humans might stop noticing when their minds are being guided by systems they no longer fully understand. So I'll leave you with this to think about. As you go about your day-to-day, as you open your phone, as you make your choices, are you noticing when your mind is being guided?